This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
He said it didn't matter. I was expecting rejection. I was expecting him to be like highly upset. He was just like, it doesn't matter. He goes, that is a technicality. And him and my uncle kept saying it. It's a technicality. And I just kept thinking, but it's not a technicality. All my medical is wrong. I kept thinking of like the different things, like everything is wrong. And they're my family and I love them, and that won't change. Like I will always be there for them. They're my family. But I have this other family that I hadn't known.
Imagine spitting into a tube, sending off your DNA, and unknowingly turning your life upside down. For me and thousands of others, this is our reality. I'm your host, Alexis Auerselt. In July of 2021, I discovered that I am an NPE, someone who has experienced a non-paternal event. In other words, my biological father isn't who I thought he was. This podcast shares the journeys of people who were shocked by a DNA discovery, mostly through modern DNA testing. We're telling the stories of NPEs, adoptees, and donor-conceived people and their families. This is DNA Surprises. NPEs come from all backgrounds, but all too often, the stories we hear involve childhood abuse. In this week's episode, Bianca shares her difficult journey to finding out that she is an NPE. First, a content warning. Bianca's story includes discussion of drug use, rape, and childhood abuse, and is not suitable for all listeners. If you or anyone you know are a victim of rape or sexual assault, please call the National Sexual Abuse Hotline at 1-800-656-4673. I've also included drug and child abuse resources in the show notes. Thank you for sharing your story, Bianca.
Okay, I am Bianca Ramos. I am from New York, and I am 33 years old. So I was born in Wayne, New Jersey, and my birth origin was weird from the beginning. So I don't have a birth certificate father. I have a father who raised me, and that's how I put it as always. When I was born, my mom was still legally married to her ex-husband. And they were separated, and he had moved back to Puerto Rico. They weren't together, but because she was married in the state of New Jersey, I couldn't have the father who we thought was my father's last name or him on my birth certificate. So that kind of peeved my dad. And I'm going to call him my dad, and I'll call the other one my biological father. I peeved my dad a lot. My mother was a drug addict, so they never lasted. I'm actually one of 6 kids, and we all have different fathers. Mm. And my dad had met my mother, my biological mother, when she was 3 months pregnant with my oldest brother, then had my brother Jason, and then had me. In between that time, she was cheating. And he didn't think that I wasn't his. He just, this is my baby girl, and that's how it is. And he's always been loving with me. My dad is an amazing man. He's had his issues, but he changed for us. And that's, I respect him. My mom essentially abandoned us when I was 4. Well, me and my older brother went to live with my father. We'll call him Jay. So me and Jay went to go live with my father. And my brother M went to go live with my grandparents, and we were separated, which was heartbreaking. And the day that we were separated, my older brother, my older Jay, was screaming and kicking in the car. I want to see my brother. I want to see my brother. It was trauma from the start. So my whole life from the beginning has been trauma because we were separated. And then my mom abandoned me. It's like, it never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
In first grade, I'll put this way. In first grade, she showed up again. And when she showed up again, she had my little sister with her. So my little sister, I'll call her S. My little sister S, she blonde-haired, gorgeous little baby. But I felt some type of way though. Like I was like, you didn't want us, and now you have this little baby. Like, what is going on?
So she had the first three.
Yeah.
M, J, and then you. You and Jay stayed together to live with your dad.
So me and Jay stayed together to live with my dad. M went to my grandparents.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And at that time, did you believe that you and Jay had the same dad?
I did. I was still little. So for me, it was, that was my daddy. That's all I knew. Mm-hmm. And I didn't question it then. It wasn't until I was 11 years old. My mom re-entered the picture again. And we went to North Carolina because my brother M, my oldest brother, had moved there with my grandparents. And we went for the summer to see my mom. She was doing great. She was off drugs. She seemed to be great. She was working for an auto parts store as a manager. We were like, yay, mom's doing well. We were so happy. And we were so grateful to see my brother, our grandparents. The next summer, a little before the next summer, my mom calls, says she's getting married to S's dad. And we were like, okay, great. She wanted me to be a bridesmaid. And, my brother's a part of the wedding. We felt so happy for her. Like she was changing, cleaning up her life. That was also the summer that I decided that I wanted to live with my mom. And my dad didn't take that very well. He basically just said to me, I don't agree with this. You're going to regret it. Your mom is going to make a mistake and you're going to be put in the middle of this. He was very adamant that he didn't want me to, but because he wanted me to be happy and he didn't want me to resent him, he agreed to it. And, it took a lot. So I went to live with her. I'm going to say within a month after living with her, I'm going to talk about something, and I haven't really talked about it on camera in a very long time.
Okay.
So I came home from school one day, and my mom was at the table with two men, and there was a pile of drugs on the table. And she tells me, "Why don't you go to your room and start your homework? And I'll be there in a second." And I was like, "Okay." So I went to do my homework. I changed. I was in pajamas. And she comes into my room and she says, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something." And I said, "Okay." So I sat with my mom and she says to me, "You're very pretty and mommy needs you to do her a favor." And I said, "Okay, what do you need?" And it was like within seconds it happened. My mom held me down and two men came into the room and assaulted me.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
And after they were done, she literally had to drag me to the bathroom, put me in the bathtub, and tell me to wash myself because I was dirty. And maybe a week or two later, I was sent back to my dad and my stepmom. And I didn't tell them anything. And not even my grandparents knew. I just said that I needed to go back home. And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody until I was about 18. And in between that time, I was a mess and I was rebellious and I hated everyone and everything. Nothing mattered. I think my teenage years and my high school years were the darkest years of my life.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Just take all the time you need.
So when I was in high school, I viewed sex as without feeling. I said, if somebody can do that to me without feeling, I can do it without feeling, right? That's how I felt. I didn't connect love with a person unless it was family. And even then, that was broken because of my mom. Like, she literally ruined my life with that. So when I was 16 years old is when I met who would be my first husband. And he was an older man. And that was the first time I equated love with like a boyfriend, a man, like someone who I thought was going to love me and take care of me and take me away. So we didn't actually start dating until I was 18.
Okay.
I was working. He was 35 at the time I was 18. And we dated and we got married secretly. I was in and out of the house, not really, living with my father at that point. I was staying with friends and I never told my dad that. My dad and I got into an argument. This was around the time that I was married, and he didn't know. And I had never told him about the assault. Mind you, he knows nothing about the assault or my marriage. I kept everything from him. We got into an argument and he says to me, you're going in and out of the house. You're not doing this. You're not, like, we went at it. So I wrote him an email. I don't know. AOL was the big thing at that time, explaining everything, the assault and how I felt and why I was so bad all those years as a teenager. And I've never seen my dad cry, not even at his brother's funeral. I've never seen this man cry. If he did, he went to the bathroom. He broke down and he kept telling me, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? And I kept telling him, how can I tell you that? I thought it was my fault. I literally thought I was a piece of garbage as a kid. Like, those are the years where you're supposed to be thriving. You're going through puberty. You're figuring out who you are. And I was just trying to figure out when I was not going to be destroyed anymore.
Yeah.
So we were okay for a while. My dad and I, during that time, had a really an on and off relationship as well. My stepmom and him were going through a divorce. And eventually I went through an annulment with my first husband. And it was because he was physically abusive. It's a lot that I went through. And I think just like the generational curses just kept showing themselves. My mom was married at 18. I was married at 18. Her husband was abusive. My ex-husband was abusive. It was like, what the hell is going on, Bianca? You have to stop this.
Mm-hmm. And during this time, were you, like, after you left your mom, did you talk to her again? Was she still in your life?
So she was in and out again. My oldest brother, M, he had a child that died. And we went to the funeral. And at the funeral, she saw me and she was like, oh, you're so beautiful. Look how much you've grown. I'm like, nothing had happened. And I didn't say anything. And I was in high school. I didn't say anything. I was like, okay. I stayed close to my stepmom because she's my everything. I stayed close to my stepmom and my stepdad. And I was only hanging out with my brothers and my little sister if I, got a chance, or my grandparents. I was trying to avoid her at all costs.
Okay.
After my annulment, I dated. I did. It didn't break me entirely. And I think telling my father kind of made me feel a little bit like a weight had lifted off my shoulders. And I was dating, whatnot. But it wasn't until I met my husband Richie, he's an angel. Like, he's an amazing man, does everything for me and my two little girls. I met him in 2010. I was dating a cop at the time, but he hurt me on Valentine's Day. So Richie swooped in and he started talking to me, and we went on our first date on March 6th of 2010. 2 weeks later, I met his parents. 7 months later, I was pregnant with my daughter, Emily.
Wow.
And and then in March of 2011, only a year after, I was married again to Richie. I mean, that was the happiest time of my life.
Mm-hmm.
There, right? Like, at some point. There's many more happy, but like that moment, I had a man who loved me, a man who cared for me. You know, I was having a little girl and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be the opposite of my mother. I'm going to be the best mom I can to this baby. That's the only thing that was on my mind. Her first birthday comes around and I had started a new job that Monday. So that weekend was her birthday party. So Monday, Tuesday, on Wednesday afternoon, I get a Facebook message and it says, hi, my name is so-and-so and are you Lourdes's daughter? And I said, yeah, I am. I wanted to let you know that she doesn't have much time and that she's dying and she wants to see you. I said, what?
Wow.
I said, a Facebook message. So I wrote back to her and I was very frank. I said, listen, I haven't spoken to my mom in years and she is not somebody that I want to speak to. I'll talk to my brothers and if they want to go see her, God bless. So she wrote back, okay. That was the end of the conversation. So I called my brother, my oldest brother, Adam. I wasn't having a very good relationship with him at that time, but I called him and I said, listen, I got this Facebook message. Mom is dying. I don't know what you want to do. I don't want to see her. If you want to go see her, it's okay. You can tell Jay as well. And he said to me, no, you are going to do what laundry you have to do tonight. You are going to make plans. You are going to tell your job that you will be out for the next 2 days because we are taking a trip to North Carolina and we're saying goodbye and we're saying what we need to because if you don't, we are going to regret it. And I was like, wow. I had to think about that. And I said, yeah, you're right. We're going to regret it. So I told my job that night. I spoke to my husband and I said, listen, tomorrow after work, I'm driving to North Carolina and I have to see my mom. And he was so upset. He was upset because he knew she had hurt me so much.
Right. He's being protective.
He didn't want me. Exactly. He was so protective of me and I love him for it. But I always say, if you are not from a situation of trauma, like extreme trauma, you can't understand why this needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And, we cried and, he was just afraid. And he understood after the fact that he was like, listen, I understand. You have to do what you have to do. So I packed a bag. I took whatever money I had with me. And the next day, my aunt picked me up and drove me to New Jersey to meet up with my brothers because they had met up together. And we drove to North Carolina. I called it the road to perdition because it was basically one of the most solemn trips that you can take. So we get to North Carolina around 7 a.m. And my brother said, we have one or two options. We can rest, get some sleep, be prepared, or we can just pull off the Band-Aid and go see her right now. So let's pull off the Band-Aid. I don't want to prolong it any longer. So we all took showers, got ready, and drove to her house. Now, little disclaimer, my mom was dying from complications of AIDS. Okay. She had HIV when I was in high school. She went through years. I mean, the woman died she died in her 50s, I think, with no real help and just taking drugs and sharing needles and, not caring. And the fact, I swear she has an angel watching over her for all those years. And when we walked in, two brothers walk in first and they're like, she goes, oh, hi, how are you? I walked in and I am the spitting image of my mother. I look like my mother. And she looks at me and she goes, oh my God, it's like looking in a mirror. And we sit down and she's talking to me about insurance paperwork because I was working for an insurance company at the time. She's like, do you think you can help me fill this out? And I'm looking at her like, what? No. Like we literally had to tell her point blank, Mom, you're dying.
Did she not realize that she was dying?
She was oblivious and in her own little world. And while we were there, I told her, we kept telling her like, well, my first thing was, you're my mother and I love you for bringing me into this world, but I hate you. Like I literally have disdain for you. You had 6 children that you didn't care for at all. And her response to me was, oh, but you had you had your father and your stepmother, so you had a good life. I was like, that's not the point. The point is that you decided that drugs were more important. And I understand drugs is a sickness. People are addicted. I get it. But I know many people who have done the same thing, who have got, and I went off on her. I said, I did have a good life with the parents that I had. But you are my mother, and you are supposed to be a mother, and you chose not to. And then you sit here with no remorse. Who does that? I had a little sister who was adopted outright from the womb.
Mm.
So it's like, we are all displaced.
Yeah.
And she didn't get it. Like, she couldn't get one remorseful feeling from her body. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I kept calling my aunt, my dad, my stepmom, my husband. I was a mess. I kept running in and out of the house. I was a mess. I think my oldest brother, M, had to stop the conversations. And he literally said, I've made peace with the fact of who you are. We're going to go, and this is the last time you're going to see us. I hope wherever you are, they show you mercy, basically. And we left.
And is that the last time you talked to her?
That is the last time that I talked to her. So she's done nothing but trauma from birth to death.
And when was this that she passed?
2012.
2012. Okay.
So September 19th, 2012. My daughter was 1 year old. Yep.
What led you to taking a DNA test and finding out about your father?
I had a little bit of qualms about it during my teenage years. So I felt, and I love her to death. I love my grandmother to death, my father's mother. I felt that she treated me a little differently. And I'm not sure. I think it was more of like the Spanish thing where the boys got treated better than the girls.
Mm-hmm.
But something in me just felt off. And another thing is that my father who raised me, his side of the family, are very petite people. They're not like me, who is like Amazonian. So, and it wasn't until, I don't know what it was, like watching like those shows, Long Lost Family and this and that, something was starting to click and things weren't making sense. So I said to myself, in October of 2021, I started looking into like Ancestry, my heritage, like all these the different ones. And I said, I'm going to take my heritage. The test came up with, I think it was like 33% Iberian, which is true because Puerto Ricans, it's Spain and Portugal, the invaders.
Right.
The same thing with Mexico and other Spanish speaking countries. We didn't all speak Spanish at one point. We were native to the land.
Right.
So yeah, and then Spanish became our language because it was integration. Mm-hmm. So what is it? So I said, okay, 33% Iberian. I believe it. That's Puerto Rican. Then it said 25% Mesoamerican and Andean. And I looked at it and said, I can understand like trade and the slave trade and things of that nature, but that just seemed like way too high a number.
Mm-hmm.
So my aunt had actually taken an ancestry test like 3 years prior, and she was like, "Let me compare your results with my results and see." So my heritage is very different from Ancestry with the way that they measure DNA. And she was like, nothing is coming up. And I'm supposed to have, I think, like 3% Chinese or something like that from my father who raised me side. He has Chinese in his family. And I said, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way, because I look like your quintessential Latina. I look Puerto Rican. Like you can look at me and go, she's Latina.
Right, right.
So my aunt was like, she goes, Bianca, with your results here, even if you don't have the Chinese, which could have been washed out, with these results here and my results from Ancestry, she basically said, I can say like with confidence that my brother is not your father. And that like killed me. Like those words right then and there, I was like, what? I didn't want it to be true. Like I knew I was searching and I was like, please don't let it be true. Please don't let it be true. And then to actually like have my aunt say that, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So she said to me, you need to take the ancestry test. You need to, because that'll confirm basically you, like, I'll probably show up as your DNA matches. And I'm like, let's see, because I just think that I thought my heritage was wrong. You know, my heritage is wrong. My heritage results I got November 12th. I ordered the test for ancestry right after, and I got it in the day before Thanksgiving. I took the test, I put it in, I told my father-in-law to mail it. My father-in-law went to go mail it. Do you know that they lost the test?
Oh my gosh.
So I had to take this again after waiting so many weeks. So I went to go take it again. I ordered it, I took it, and on March 3rd of this year, I got the results. And I started looking down my ancestry, not the matches first, the ancestry results, like the actual DNA measurement of cultures. And it had the Spain, the Portugal, it had indigenous Puerto Rican, which was a high percent. So I said, that is probably what the Mesoamerican and Andean, because they're measuring indigenous DNA.
Right.
So I said, okay, but I don't think that what they don't understand is that Mesoamerican is separate from Taíno. Like, I don't think they have the capability to separate that. She's Latina, so we're going to put her into this category. Mm-hmm. That was my thinking of it. And I said, listen, that's fine. You know, if that's how they measured it, that's okay. So I was like, okay. I keep looking down. I'm like, okay, it seems like I'm pretty much what a Puerto Rican is supposed to be, a mutt. I got it. Yeah. I got it. I was like, okay, this seems more correct. I was like, this is great. So my aunt goes, okay, wait. She goes, this could mean that your father's your father. I said, yes. And it could have been a mistake. This is great. So her DNA matches come up. And the first DNA match to come up is my cousin. And she's like, but where are you? And I told her, I said, Titi, think about it. And she was like, let me call Ancestry Customer Service. So she calls Ancestry Customer Service. Mm-hmm. And Ancestry Customer Service tells her, I don't see a Bianca in any of that variety in your matches. My aunt's like, what does that mean? She goes, basically, it means that she's not related to you. And my aunt calls me and she says, I don't know what to say. And I said, there's nothing to say. This just confirmed what you said.
How did you feel?
I cried in a Starbucks. I was like, I felt defeated. I felt like I did when I was assaulted. Like, I just felt like my whole world was crashing down. My father kept telling me, he goes, I don't care. He goes, I don't care. He goes, you're my daughter.
So did you call him right away?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I called him when I got my heritage results.
Okay. Did you have any matches on that side when you took your tests?
Oh, yes.
Who did you match with?
I matched with a first cousin, which I know with like the centimorgans and the measurements that is just like a guesstimate of what that person could be. So right away when I had taken the MyHeritage, a DNA search angel is helping me. She still is. Amazing person. Because MyHeritage didn't have like close matches, when I got my ancestry results, she started working right away. So I am a part of a family that has half lines, which sucks.
Can you explain what that means for people that don't know?
Yes. So basically, my great-great-grandfather was married twice. The first marriage is where the line I'm a part of. The second marriage is where most of my matches are a part of.
Okay.
And there's not many of the first line where I'm a part of on Ancestry.
Okay.
So when I go on Ancestry, I see this and I go, okay. So I've had actually family from the second half line, the second marriages line, reach out to me. And they kept telling me, you look like this side of my family. And I'm like, okay, I don't know your family, so I don't know where I fit in. So my DNA search angel basically broke it down. The lines basically cross.
Okay.
My maternal and paternal lines cross.
So there was some interfamily.
There was some interfamily.
Okay.
Yes. And that side of the family is from my mother's grandmother's side of the family.
Okay.
So I did my mother's line. Like she was doing the paternal side and I was doing my mother's family tree. And I found the name of the person that they said, or the family line that they said that I look like. And when I found so many with that name, I was like, what? Did my mother know? Like, my thing is that my father could have been a drug addict because of just the way my mother was. Mm-hmm. You know, my biological father. He could have been a great man and she could have suckered him. Like, we don't know. We don't know the story. And right now, my DNA search angel, she has brought it down to one particular family line with 4 brothers. Mm. And these 4 brothers could be my father.
Have you made contact with them?
I refuse.
Okay.
At this point, I told her, you do the final confirmation for me. Like, you basically just make sure that those are the people. You can send messages with, you know, my information if they want to reach out to me. I can't right now. I can't.
Well, it's only been a couple of months. So where do you feel like you're at right now?
It's strange because we're so close. We're there. It's like staring at us right in front of our faces. And I just feel like I can't handle right now another parent rejection.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't do it because I still think like if my mother could abandon a 4-year-old, why the hell is a father going to want a 33-year-old? Mm. And it makes no sense to some people that are listening to this who have never been through it. But I just feel like I'm going to be rejected again. And I thought I could handle that because I was like, listen, I have my father, I have my stepmom, and it is what it is. Like, I have my family, you know, the family that loves me. But you still feel like that little girl. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of like, even men who have found out about this feel like those children again. Like, you feel rejection. Yeah. You say it's not going to hurt, but it's going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. And you don't know how you're going to handle that.
Yeah. Well, it's still so recent. It's so recent for you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people with more experience in this recommend waiting, you know, and taking the time to process as much as you can.
Yeah, because I just went from finding out the results to an instant search. Like, and I said, listen, if this is what I have, this, you know, and I'm the type of person that when I put my mind to something, I do it. And I'm going to find out the truth. And I literally have now told, you know, like I said, my search angel and my family, I was like, I can't do it anymore. It is seriously weighing down on my mental health. Like I'm noticing it with my children, you know, I'm noticing it with my husband. I'm noticing it with like just myself, like.
Este episodio es presentado por Honda. Descubra la nueva Honda Passport Trail Sport Todoterreno. La Passport más todoterreno que Honda haya imaginado jamás. Esta Passport cuenta con mayor altura al suelo, barras de techo en todas sus versiones y neumáticas especialmente diseñados para cualquier terreno. Además, disfruta todos tus viajes con el control de clima de 3 zonas, techo panorámico y opciones como asientos delanteros con calefacción y ventilación. Conoce más en honda.com/passport.
Support comes from ServiceNow. We're for people doing the creative work they actually want to do. That's why this ad was written and read by a real person and not AI. You know what people don't want to do? Boring, busy work. Now with AI agents built into the ServiceNow platform, you can automate millions of repetitive tasks in every corner of your business, IT, HR, and more. so your people can focus on the work that they want to do. That's putting AI agents to work for people. It's your turn. Visit servicenow.com.
What do you mean by that?
Like, I'm a different person. Like, just, I have been like, just mentally and physically tired.
Now that you know that it could be one of these 4 brothers, did you do any digging on the back end to just see who they are and learn anything about them, or are you staying away from it entirely?
So I did. I Facebooked them. Like, Facebook searched them, not Facebook them, but Facebook searched them. And one of them looks like a normal, happy guy with a wife and kids. And the other 2 that I could find pictures on, I'm telling you right now, I hope they're not my father. I feel bad about that. But I knew going in here that they just look like they're bad.
What do you mean by that?
You know how they say, like, you judge a book by its cover?
Right.
Like, one of the pictures that I saw of this guy, like, you could see by his face that he had been through a lot in his life. Like, he had been through, like, I don't know, it's because of my mom. Like, I could tell when a person was a drug addict.
Yeah, you've been exposed to it.
Exactly. Like, one of them, I think, is the father. And I was like, oh God, if this is him. He just looks like he's been through it.
And what about him or your research has made you believe that he could be it?
What is it? Because of the family line. So basically, we spoke to a person who was like a 4th cousin, but who grew up with those brothers. And she's very sure that one of them is the father. And the only reason why is because my DNA search angel has been like going out and messaging like as many close relatives as she can to get like little bits of information here and there. She's been actually amazing. No one's been like rude to her. They've been very helpful with family information. And I didn't know that like a lot of people on my paternal side are NPEs. Before this, I didn't think this was as common.
Right.
And like, you know, you had that like naive thinking like, oh my God, like how many could there really be? And then, you know, you read the statistics and you're like, oh my God. And I was cracking up because I said, well, in Hispanic families, that's very common.
Right. Where people raise somebody else's child. Yeah.
And I was like, and I said, it happens more often than you think. So when she narrowed it down to this family line, she goes, Bianca, I'm pretty sure that this is the family line that we need to look into. And I was like, holy crap. I could find him by the end of the month. What am I going to say? And do I even want to like do this now? Like you have all these emotions. And if you're new to this, like me, it's like, do I still want to continue this? Like, I feel like I'm hurting my dad. And I feel like, you know, my family's going to think of me differently. Like, how could you do this to your dad? They haven't been. They've been very supportive.
That's what I was going to ask what is your dad's reaction to you searching for your biological father?
He asked me anytime I speak to him, he goes, have you had any developments? And I said, no. He goes, okay. He just knows that I need medical information, especially because I suffer from a lot of things with like my ovaries and stuff like that. And my mom had 6 kids and popped them out like it was nothing. And I have no real medical history on her. My, dad's side of the family, they're no longer part of my medical history. And then them listening to this and then they'd be like, but we're your family. They know that they're my family. I love them to death. I will do anything for them. They are amazing. But I need answers. I need the truth. It's like the X-Files. The truth is out there.
Yeah.
Where? We don't know. But we have to find the truth.
Yeah.
And that's all I want. I want the truth because I've been lied to. I've been manipulated. I've been traumatized my entire life by a woman And even in her grave, she still digs a little deeper. Like my sister S, she found out that her father wasn't her father.
So she was an NPE too.
She's an NPE too.
Have you been able to connect with anyone from your biological family? You said some people reached out and said that you look like, have you built any relationships?
So two second cousins, and they actually live in the next town over from me. And wow. I had no idea. Yeah. So I was at dinner with family one day, and we're Facebook friends now. And she says to me, "You're in my neighborhood." And I said, "I thought you lived in the Bronx." She goes, "No, I live in, so-and-so." I'm like, oh my God. And she said, "Yeah, for the past 30 years. I was like, "Qué?" Like, what? So we haven't met up yet, only because it's been so crazy for me. It's hard. Even if you live in the next town over from me, like I am so busy most of the time that I think the next thing that I'm going to have to say is we're going to have to video message each other, because I can't.
Yeah, and just kind of start somewhere.
Exactly. Because listen, it's beautiful to find people that are your blood. It's beautiful. You want to have that blood connection. It was also very daunting too, because it was like, I could have known you, Mm-hmm. And my grandmother used to say it best, that my mom was like a ball of yarn. And every time you unraveled, something else popped up.
Mm. What are your feelings about your mom today?
I thought I forgave her a long time ago. And everything is like a fresh wound that opened up. And I just have I think I'm numb right now.
Yeah.
I'm numb.
What has been the reaction of your family? I know you said to your dad, nothing's changed. What about your siblings?
I mean, my brother M, we found out that he never knew who his father was to begin with, but he's also doesn't know, like he was told that his father was one thing culturally, and he was another thing. So still in the Hispanic race, but he's another thing. So he was told his father was Dominican and his father's actually Cuban.
Okay.
And he just told me, "Bianca, you have to do what you have to do, but I don't want to know anything about anybody." He doesn't care. And then my older brother, Jay, we don't have the best relationship at all. And we don't talk very often. And I love him, and I want him to be happy. And you know how they say you have to love somebody from afar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to love him from afar, because I can't have more drama in my life right now. Mm-hmm. And then my sister S, who found out about that, she was an NPE. She just said to me, "Girl, do you do what you have to do?" And my littlest brother, he's in his own little world. Yeah. We don't really talk. We don't talk much. It's not because we don't have a relationship. He's just in college and doing his own thing. And we didn't grow up together, so we're not as close as, like, let's say the older siblings are. Mm-hmm. And then I recently found my adopted out sister, half sister, on Facebook, and I refuse to reach out to her because I want her to be happy. I don't know if her parents have spoken to her about where she comes from, because you can clearly see that she's Latina and she's mixed in with a Caucasian family. So okay, yeah, I don't know if she was told anything.
Yeah,
but I won't say anything, because I'm going to be very honest with you. I'd rather her parents tell her, because it's not my place to tell her. Yeah. She doesn't know who I am. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to spoil a surprise, like spoil that and be like, "Hey, I'm your sister." And her go, "What?"
Right.
I don't want to do that to her. Plus she's 17 years old. And until she's 18, I couldn't do that to begin with. She's probably happy and she doesn't need to know about all of this right now.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't. And she looks like she's going to college. And
what have you been doing to process all of this? I mean, this is very fresh for you. So how are you working through it?
Writing. I just wrote my autobiography and I put it all down on paper. So I just, like, when us talking right now, it's just a synopsis of everything that has happened. The book has everything.
Yeah.
And it's called Secrets from the Grave. And when I wrote that, it was the most therapeutic thing I've ever done. Just having it written down. For most of my life, creativity was like my outlet. So I'm a makeup artist on the side, and I have 2 other businesses. So I keep busy. And I think like me keeping busy and not thinking about it was working for a while. But I really think that I'm going to go with the therapist route because it's just been a lot.
Yeah. A lot of trauma in your life.
Yeah. So, and my husband's been a great support. I just think that like me sitting down, having this hour or whatever to myself with a therapist will really like give me clarity and just weight lifted off my shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Well, please, after this, send me the link to your book and I'll be sure to put it in the show notes for everyone. What advice would you give a parent who is keeping a DNA surprise from their child?
Tell your child when they're a teenager. I'm not going to say because it's a lot for a little kid. It is. It's a lot for a little kid. But please tell your children early enough that they don't go into adulthood traumatized. It's too much. It really is, especially when you have like families and stuff. It's too much. Be honest. Because at the end of the day, with the internet and all these DNA tests that are coming out, and there's more, this is not the end of them. Your child's going to know. And when your child asks you before they take that test as a joke, maybe sit them down and tell them.
And what advice would you give someone who just discovered that they're an NPE?
Breathe. Because this journey is long. It does get better. But at the beginning, you're going to feel hopeless and you're going to feel like everything's falling apart. I would say I wish that I didn't search as fast. I wish I didn't start the search as fast. I wish that I took time to process the information, because finding out like just little things here and there, it's daunting. It's just a lot thrown at you. So breathe, take a second to grieve. Don't let anybody tell you that what you're feeling is an inadequate feeling. It's not. You have every right to feel the way that you feel. And if you need to talk to somebody, please join all those support groups because they have been a godsend.
Yeah, there are a lot out there on Facebook and things now.
Yes. If you can't talk to your family, talk to a therapist. Talk to somebody with an unbiased opinion. Someone who doesn't know. Because sometimes talking to somebody who doesn't know and getting your perspective and their perspective, it helps.
Yeah.
It does. It helps.
That's great advice. Well, Bianca, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing your story. I know it was difficult and a lot to relive through the telling of your story. So thank you for being so open and honest about what your journey has been like. And
you're very welcome.
I hope that you find peace and resolution with whatever route you decide to take in connecting or not with your biological family, and that your relationship with your raised family is continuing to be positive in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again to Bianca for sharing her story. If you have a DNA surprise story that you'd like to share, please email dnasurprises@gmail.com. And if you haven't yet, please rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Until next time.